and welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Devan. India's 7 delegations have now returned after the briefings to 33 countries where they met hundreds of foreign delegations and put forth India's message against terror. The Prime Minister will be meeting with the delegates on Operation Sindoor and hosting them for a dinner. This is an unprecedented, united party lines that India has now witnessed for the first time, which has completely shaken Pakistan, that is now forcibly making a copycat delegation led by Bilawal Bhutto. Viewers, we're now being joined by several members who have led these delegations to understand from their perspective what is it that India has managed to achieve. Let me begin the conversation with Ambassador Shringla, former Foreign Secretary, joining me on the broadcast. He was a part of Mr. Jay Panda's delegation to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain and Algeria. Ambassador Shringla, I first extend my congratulations to you, sir, on a very successful marathon outreach. What can you tell us about the message that was given to the countries that you visited?
Our side was that we will definitely want to follow a zero tolerance policy on terrorism, that we would expect other countries also to show a very strong attitude towards terrorism, that we briefed them in some detail on the incident, the terrorist attack in Pahalgam, but also about Operation Sindoor and about our new normal. And we made it very clear that in the event of any future terrorist attack, that India will respond and will respond very firmly. So I think the message was understood and received clearly by all the countries that we visited.
Ambassador Shringla, then the delegations that you were a part of visited Islamic countries specifically. How did they receive India's message, and was there unequivocal support to India's stand?
So this is a very, I think, relevant question because these countries that we visited are those that are very influential as far as Pakistan is concerned. They have had historical ties with Pakistan. They have been providing financial and economic assistance to Pakistan. And these are the countries where Pakistan focuses its diplomatic and other attention on. But that perception is changing very quickly these days, because over the past 10 years or so, India has, I think, turned the tables somewhat. Prime Minister Modi's own efforts to cultivate a relationship with the leaders of these countries has been very successful. You've seen that all of these countries that we visited have invited him and received him with the highest honors. They look at India in a very, very different way today. They see us as a strategic partner, a country that is an economic powerhouse, the 4th largest economy in the world, and a country with whom they would like to not only invest in, but also with whom they want to work together in providing a certain level of support at the regional and global levels in a very uncertain world today. So they see India as one of the countries that can support a global multipolar order. And so from that perspective, I think there is a much greater receptivity to any message that we convey, certainly something as important as terrorism and the terrorist attacks on us is something that these countries were receptive to listening to our point of view. And my own sense is that the delegation has made a very significant impact on the way these countries view the issue of terrorism from Pakistan and the need to deal with it in a manner that would ensure that Pakistan is kept under very, very strict scrutiny and control.
Okay, Ambassador Shringla, Pakistan has made a similar outreach attempt. However, theirs is to simply 3 countries in the OIC. How do you view Pakistan's outreach compared to our united approach? Do you feel somewhere Pakistan has been shaken up?
Well, Pakistan will try and do everything it can to copy what we do. After all, they're desperate for a hyphenation of the relationship, even though India has surpassed it many times over. Today, our economy is 11 times larger than that of Pakistan. States like Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu have a larger GDP than the GDP of Pakistan. They have a foreign exchange reserve balance of $16 billion, ours is $600 billion. So we are not even looking at them from our rearview mirror, as Stephen Cohen says. He's a famous American academic. And so, from that perspective, I think it is obviously their desire to be seen in conjunction with India. So, which is why they are copying every move that we make. But I think look at our delegation, for example. Our delegation was an all-party delegation of parliamentarians. These are very seasoned and experienced parliamentarians from different walks of life and different ideologies. You had Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi, who leads his own party in Hyderabad. You had Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad, who's been Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, who has been a cabinet minister in successive Congress governments. And you've had many other parliamentarians of great, I would say, repute and experience, such as Mr. Nishikant Dubey and the leader of the delegation himself, Mr. Baijan Panda, both of whom have done 5 terms in parliament. And so, from that perspective, I think they were amazed to see that here is a political representation that is very diverse, politically diverse in linguistically and in terms of the religions followed, etc. But yet speak in one voice when it comes to our national priority and positions. And compare that with Pakistan, where there is no political, I would say, class to speak of anymore, because democracy is a sham. It is the military that's in control of that country. Some of the most popular leaders of the country are behind bars. And so the politicians who go out today have really no, I would say, basis to go out and speak on behalf of the country. So in that sense, I think their sending out delegations is only going to be a contrast with what we have presented. And it is going to be a very, very adverse contrast to that. And I think they may make a lot of efforts, but our diplomacy is at the top of things. And every country that we visited and some of the most influential people that we met across the board were very clear on one thing. They said that we're very grateful that India has sent such a high-level delegation representing the entire spectrum of political opinion in India to our countries. And from that point of view, I think they were grateful that this effort was made to brief them firsthand. Whether it was Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, or Algeria, this is a common thread that we notice in all of these countries. And of course, the fact that a clear message was conveyed by people representing, as I said, different political parties, different political ideologies. And then, of course, the fact that all of these countries, as I said, look to India as a country that they need to work with in the future on issues that are very, very important to them in terms of economic and investment relations, in terms of regional and global responsibilities. These countries understand that India is a country that they need to look towards in the future, and Pakistan's only, I would say, attribute is one that involves the spreading of negativism, radicalism,
Yes,
fundamentalism,
yes.
terrorism. With these countries, the Gulf countries and Algeria, all of them they've experienced terrorism. They've experienced the backlash of whether it is Al-Qaeda or whether it is the Daesh, that's ISIS, or whether it's the Salafist ideologies. All of this come from the epicenter of terrorism, which is Pakistan. So that these countries appreciate. They have a strong stance on terrorism. They've all condemned terrorism, the terrorist attack in Pahalgam on 22nd April. And I think from that point of view, there was a common thread that ran across these countries. And keep in mind, they're very influential countries because the Gulf countries are members of the Gulf Cooperation Council. The GCC is also a member of the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, which is a very important organization because it monitors terrorist financing, and Pakistan is at the top of the misuse of terrorist financing. At the same time, they're members of the OIC. Some of them are members of the UN Security Council. Algeria is the second largest economy in Africa, and they're also an influential member of the African Union. So these countries can exercise influence beyond their I would say, regions. They can exercise influence through the multilateral organizations of which they are a part. and I think they need to do what it takes to keep Pakistan in check and to ensure that it can no longer use terrorism as an instrument of its
Okay, Ambassador Shringla, then on the point of Pakistan, did we manage to present evidence of Pakistan's cross-border terrorism, and how was that largely received?
Yes, I think there was very clear presentation of evidence from a historical point of view, whether it is the Mumbai attacks, whether it's attacks in Uri and Pathankot, or the Pahalgam attacks. I think the delegation provided very, very clear evidence of Pakistan's complicity and involvement in these attacks. The fact that the organization that claimed credit for the Pahalgam attack was the Popular Front. We had already conveyed to the UN Security Council's 1267 monitoring team that the LET is now going by the name of the TRF quite a few months ago, and the fact that this organization actually posted on the internet that they had carried out the attack, and later after 3 days withdrew that post is itself an indication of the involvement of the LET, which is based, as we know, out of Pakistan, and one of the targets that we hit on the strikes of 7th of May. At the same time, I think, it was made clear, when Pakistan, as a member, a non-permanent member of the Security Council, worked to remove the reference to the TRF from the Security Council statement, and then took credit for it later on, is an indication of the fact that they did not want this organization to be named. Why, if you're not involved with this organization, why would you want it removed from the UN Security Council statement? So all of this, I think, was made clear, and a lot of other information, some of which I can't share in the public domain.
Yes.
But a lot of other information was shared with our interlocutors. And as I said, I think there was great appreciation for the way that we had presented all the information, and this information is coming from not just from the government of India, but from the entire political spectrum of India.
Okay, Ambassador Shringla, while I can appreciate that there are details of these meetings that you won't be able to share with public at large, but would you say that there is now complete clarity on India's position against terrorism and what our response will be in the future if a similar attempt such as Pahalgam is made?
Well, I mean, there is a new normal which really says that, we will respond firmly to any terrorist attacks in the future. That, the burden of proof doesn't lie with us. As long as we believe it comes from a certain state, we will certainly, take retributive measures. And I think this is the only language that some of our, neighbors understand. And this is the only way that we can provide a deterrence to what has been a series of terrorist attacks for the past few decades. And I think there is, as people of India felt, enough is enough, and we need to be extremely firm in the way we deal with some of these issues that impact on, people across the board when they are victims of such attacks. It tends to disrupt not only takes the lives of people, and it also takes away livelihoods, like in Jammu and Kashmir. The fact that this terrorist attack was conducted and it has impacted adversely on tourism inflows, impacts on the livelihood of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. That is why, for the first time ever since 1947, because the first time was 1947, people of Jammu and Kashmir have come out to the streets to protest against Pakistan's use of terrorism and the Pahalgam incident. And I think that shows that there is a huge traction for the peace dividend in Jammu and Kashmir, that the people of Jammu and Kashmir were very happy with the fact that there was so much of economic activity in the state. 23 million tourists visited Jammu and Kashmir in the year 2024. This is also a sense that, India's policy of abrogating Article 370 has been a successful one. Pakistan's effort was to try and disrupt that. Pakistan's effort was trying to create communal disharmony by targeting, by targeting non-Muslims and trying to use that to create a communal divide. But the opposite happened. People of Kashmir came out strongly protesting Pakistani terrorism. People across India, across the political and social divide, came up and said that we are with, the victims of, the Pahalgam attack, and we will definitely, we are with the country. The country is all together and united in any response that we give Pakistan, and Operation Sindoor was that response that the people of India, I think, very, very much, desired.
Okay, Ambassador Shringla, before I let you go, sir, I want to also just lastly understand from you, would you say that India's outreach program has somewhere changed how Pakistan is perceived by the world?
Yes, I think it was very evident that even though many of the countries we visited had ties with Pakistan, both historic and contemporary, these countries have also been helpful towards Pakistan by providing economic and financial relief. But I think there is a certain sense that, but they're also victims of terrorism. Same countries that we visited were also victims of terrorism, and they are not at all in favor of countries being a host to terrorism, being a host to radicalism and fundamentalism. And I think they also understand that this sort of I would say involvement of the state with non-state actors in terms of the adverse impact it can make on their neighbors and in the region and globally, is not in their economic interest. These are countries that are peaceful. They want to provide better lives, and better livelihoods for their own people, including a country like Algeria. And they sympathize with India that we are a country that is focused on our own growth and development. We have not harmed anybody, but we will not tolerate being harmed either. So our focus is on growth. Our focus is on trying to achieve a developed country status by 2047, and this meets, I think, the general sentiment that we see across the region and across the world. And so definitely the delegation's visit has had an impact in portraying Pakistan for what it is, a state that has colluded with terrorists, a state that their own defense minister said has done the dirty work for many other countries, a state that has been involved with spreading extremism, fundamentalism, and radicalism across the region and the globe. And keep in mind that many of the terrorists that were eliminated on the strikes on 7th of May were those who were involved in attacks against others. For example, Daniel Pearl, the Wall Street journalist Daniel Pearl's murder was carried out by the same group. And so these are individuals that have blood on their hands. These are individuals who have committed heinous crimes on civilians and innocent people. These are individuals who are wanted by the United Nations under their proscribed lists. And these are the people that the Security Council has said should be held accountable and brought to justice. And this is what we have done. We have followed the Security Council statement of 25th of April, when they said the perpetrators, organizers, financiers, and sponsors of this reprehensible act of terrorism should be held accountable and brought to justice. This is exactly what we have done. And we have followed international law. We have followed what is necessary in bringing terrorists wanted not only in India but across the world to book. And I think the world should thank us for that. And that is what our delegation has been able to do. Delegations that have gone all over the world have carried that message, that we are strong on terrorism. We are doing the work of the rest of the world. You need to support us. You need to be with us, and you need to ensure that Pakistan is kept under control to avoid a situation where they will face the brunt of our very strong response in any future terrorist attack.
Ambassador Shringla, thank you so much, sir, for joining us on NewsX and giving our viewers that perspective in